Okay. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. So my name is Aisha, and today I'll be teaching you political science. Okay, let's start from the definition of political science. Yeah. So basically, political science does not have a particular definition like many other social science. Although there are some particular definition of some scholars, political science scholars of earlier times that actually stood out. So we'll be looking at each of those definition of those scholars. So I just want to ask a question before I start. What is politics to you? How would you define politics in your word? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear of politics? Most of you will most likely say government. Yeah, you're correct as well. Government. But then political scientists are quite unsatisfied with limiting political science to just government because political science is a very wide course that has a lot of definition. So you limiting it to government. Wow. So let's start with the definitions that scholars give, political science scholars give. All right. So we have David Easton. David Easton viewed politics by associating it with power, conflict, and authority. David Easton is a school of thought. He founded the Estonian School of Thought. And based on his school of thought, he had a student called William Blum. William Blum is a political scientist who followed the David Easton School of Thought. And how did William Blum define political science? William Blum defined political science by saying political science, actually not political science in its exact form, but politics. He defined politics as a social process characterized by activities involving rivalry and cooperation in the exercise of power, culminating in the making of decisions for a group. What does he mean by this? He's saying politics is a social process because it occurs in a society. It occurs between two or more people. You get characterized by activities involving rivalry and corruption. Politics, saying politics has to do with any situation that has to do with rivalry like conflict, cooperation. For example, now we have the executive, legislative, judiciary. They all work together to ensure an um, effective running of the society. Yeah. So cooperation in that form. Then we have rivalry in the form of election, like we have the APC, for example, now during the election, we have the APC, we have the PDP. So they tell them the APC, PDP, LP, all of them running against each other to like get a particular position, get the position of presidency. That's rivalry in a form, in a particular form. So you think politics has to do with all this in the exercise of power. At the end of everything, they all want to exercise power, yeah. They all want to exercise power and also want to make decision for a group. Now, if I'm to base it on the Nigerian system, I would say that want to make decision for the country. Okay. So they say that this particular guy, William Blum, sees politics power, wherever power, relationship, or conflict situation exists, wherever we have power, relationship, any place whatsoever it is, it can be in labor union. We have labor union such as NLC, we have labor union such as ASU. Wherever conflict situation arises, student union, for example, you are running for the course rep of your department, not just you, we are running against somebody, we are competing against each other. Do not necessarily need to be conflict like fighting, it's about fighting, but like conflict, you get conflict in a matured form. Let's put it that way. Conflict in a matured form. Yeah. Corporations, people of African leaders, people are usually fighting to just be like on top, to be the leader. In a in a company of three people, we always have two people. Or in fact, those three people fighting to be at the top, even if they do it, sometimes it's usually unconscious fighting, unconscious rivalry, sometimes it's conscious rivalry. So that one is just saying that politics has to do with rivalry, cooperation, anything that has to do with power, relationship, or conflict situation, actually, anything like that. So he places emphasis on activities or behavior rather than a particular kind of institution. He didn't exactly place it on government on his own. Like he placed it on a behavior, on an activity or a behavior. Conflict is an activity, right? It's an activity between that occur between two or more people, just as a negative activity, yeah. So cooperation is also an activity too. So he placed it on behavior rather than if we were to place it on institution. He didn't exactly specify that government. He didn't exactly put government in his definition. What he was just trying to say was conflict, that politics has to do with conflict situation and power tussle and stuff like that. So moving forward, we have David Easton, the guy gone gone, the main G. David Easton that formed the Estonian school of thought, if you guys have forgotten. How did he define politics? He said politics has to do with the authoritative allocation of values. Okay, what does he mean by the authoritative? He's saying that authoritative, for him, authoritative means a policy, like, let me just put it in the way that the guys can understand. He said that that a policy is authoritative if when the person to whom it is intended to apply or who are affected by it consider that they must or ought to obey it. So he's trying to say that a policy is authoritative if it is given. For example, now they are told to follow a rules and regulation, and even if you don't want to follow it, but you have to follow it, it's a must for you to follow it. So you say that a policy is authoritative when you are, when it is binded upon you that you must follow it, whether you like it or not. That's what I'm trying to say. In other words, such a policy must be considered binding. Like I said, when it is a must for you to follow it and stuff like that. However, not every authoritative decision is made within the political system. It's not all, because we have some authority. Like for example, now in the family, the father is like, I mean, we have in Nigerian homes, when your father says something, you can't exactly go against it, even though you don't like it. That's an authoritative decision, yeah. And for him, it's saying that it's limiting the authoritative decision to just a political system. So that's one limitation of his. That's one of the limitation David Easton had in his definition. It was limiting the authoritative authoritative stuff to just political system. But authoritative decision can naturally take place in family, in a family setting. It can take place in a school setting. For example, your principal is telling you go and do this, and you have no other choice but to do it, even though you know that you don't want to do it. So it's not just taking place in a political system. You get. So, following from Eastern definition, it means that the political scientist is only interested in the authoritative decision, which applies to all members of the society, though only a few might be affected. It didn't take notice of probably authoritative decision that takes place between family, between corporation, between stuff like that. We're just focusing on the one that is taking place in government. You get. So moving forward, we have another school of thought. This school of thought was propounded by Harold Laswell. Harold Laswell defined politics as the study of who gets what, when, and how. And I like to ask this particular question, so I'm just going to show it to you guys. So, for example, now we are the eldest. You can put your reply in the chat box. For example, now we are the eldest sibling, and we're given a very large loaf of bread, and we're told to share it. Why? How would you share it? You're the eldest sibling and we're giving the largest loaf of bread, and your father told you, your mother told you, okay, share this bread between you and your siblings. How are you going to share it? Now, some of you might probably tell me that you're going to share it according to the age, you're going to take the biggest slice, you're going to share it according to what your siblings can eat, you know, their potential, their capacity, you're going to share it according to so on and so forth. But at the end of everything, politics still took place in that setting according to our last year, because it has to do with studying of who gets what in the form that, okay, you decide that, okay, my immediate younger sibling is going to get a bigger size. I'm going to get a bigger size and followed by my immediate younger sibling. Then my younger siblings, like that. You're just doing it according to age, right? Or you can do it that I get the bigger size while the rest just share equal size. So you're still doing who gets what. In that case, you're like the leader and you're sharing the bread among your siblings, and you decide that, okay, I'm going to take the bigger size, and then you take the bigger size and then you share the main one among them. It's not your choice that, okay, do I want to give my siblings this, do I want to give them the smaller size, or do I want to give them equal size that I give myself, or do I want to share it equally, do I want to share it according to their age, or do I want to share it according to their capacity? It still falls under who gets what when. Now for example, now if for example now you are in an organization, and in that organization there are three people in the organization, and probably like there is this particular incentive you want to give them, but then you notice that one particular person, that if that person get that incentive now, the person is most likely going to misuse the incentive. But if the person get the incentive at a later time, the person will be able to use the incentive efficiently. So rather you wait for the perfect time. So at that period of time, you're also displaying policies, because why, you are deciding at what particular time you want to give that incentive out to that particular person. You get. So politics is the study of who gets what when, And how? What did I mean by an how? In coming back to the bread analogy, I would say that when you are talking about how, you are the one that decided how your siblings, how the bread is to be shared, how the bread, apart from getting who gets what, you're still the one that is deciding how the bread is should be shared, whether it's going to be shared equally or to be shared according to age, like I said earlier on. So I was, that's what he's just saying, that's all politics is about. Based on him, according to him, politics has to just do with how values are distributed. On his view, who gets what, when, and how. Please just take note of that. Anyways, there's a clear difference between the definition of the Estonian variant. If you can remember, I said Estonian variant. We propounded the Estonian variant. Who propounded the Estonian theory? David Easton, right? And the power theories. What are the power theories? Power theories is the Howard Laswell. Howard Laswell. Power theories is the name they gave Howard Laswell School of Thought. So Estonian variant is the David Easton theory, while power theories is the Howard Laswell theory, school of thought rather. So is it that the power that the clear difference between these two school of thought? What's the difference? Is it that the power theories, Howard Laswell school of thought, emphasizes on the role of the power in the distribution process, how power is shared, how it is shared among people, who gets what, when, and how. I keep repeating that so that you will not forget that. While the Estonian focuses on the Estonian David Easton school of thought, focuses on the relationship between what goes into a system and what comes out of the system. Like I told you, it has to do with the authoritative allocation of values, how decision is how decision is made, like how they allocate decision, how they allocate values between the people. Now, the values that I'm talking about in this David Easton is not necessarily the values that we normally used to see in our civic education. Probably like values like honesty, discipline. You know, it's not that type of value. In politics, the value has to do with like um resources. Let me just put it in that way, like resources. Yes, like resources. So we can say that the value is resources. So that's the definite difference between the Estonian and the power theorists school of thought. So there's this other guy. This guy has been in so many departments, so many courses. He keeps occurring and reoccurring and occurring and reoccurring. All of you know him. His name is Aristotle. Aristotle is the father of political science. How did Aristotle define politics? Aristotle said that politics arises in organized states which recognize themselves to be an aggregate of many members rather than a single tribe, religion, interest, or tradition. So what Aristotle is saying is that politics is not just a single man thing, it's not just one man thing, it's not just a one man team, it's not just a single tribe stuff. It's a combination of different tribes, different religion coming together to make decisions or to carry out to make their to carry out a decision for themselves. You get. So he said that politics comes up from accepting the fact of the simultaneous existence of different traditions within a territorial unit under a common rule. He's trying to say that politics comes out from, for example, now let me give Nigeria as a case study. In Nigeria, we have different religion. We have the Muslim, we have the Christian, we have the traditionalists. I even heard that we have some Jewish as well. So different religion, yeah, and we have different tribes. We have the Yoruba, we have the Igbo, we have the Hausa. Different religion, different tribes, all coming together under one particular geographical unit. That's Nigeria. The geographical unit here I'm talking about is Nigeria on this one, under a common rule. What's the common rule? We have one particular president. All of us now are President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Honestly, one word by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So is the executive president who is ruling, who is the head of state currently in Nigeria. So that what Aristotle is saying, that politics has to do with the combination of different tribes, different religion coming together under one geographical territory, and under a common rule. So that's that. So how, from all this definition, what exact definition can we give political science? What definition can we give political science? I can give you three definition now. So I would just want you to choose the one that you know that will be easier for you to remember. So I'll say political science is a systematic and scientific. That systematic and scientific is very essential. But whichever one you are going to choose, the scientific and systematic must be there. systematic and scientific. Political science is the systematic and scientific study of politics, government, and political behavior. It examines how power is acquired, used, and distributed, as well as how laws, policies, and institutions shape societies. Now, that's one definition you can use. What does this definition mean? It means that political science is scientific and systematic. Why is political science a systematic and scientific study of politics and stuff like that? Because it uses the scientific methodology. It carries out observation, does hypotheses, do data collection, and so on and so forth. It uses the scientific method, and it's systematic because it is quite organized. The method is organized in a way. It's not just a random. It's not just someone that will just come and just bring random theory or just bring random solutions to societal problem. No, they get their theory, they get their solution from through a particular systematic methodology, through a particular systematic and scientific methodology, you get. So let me give you another definition of political science. We can also say political science can be defined as the scope which covers the nature of statehood, political authority, and the relationship between individuals within the state and relationship among states. This one is saying that political science can be defined as the scope that covers the nature of statehood on its own, political authority, political authority, the government and stuff like that, and the relationship between individuals within the state, the relationship between you and I, and the relationship between among states, relationship between one state to another. The state does not necessarily need to be Lagos State or a Kaduna State. It can be Nigeria. So Nigeria is a state as well as a nation. Yeah, it can be Nigeria to America, or the relationship between Nigeria and Canada, or the relationship between Canada and America, something like that. Yeah. You can also say that political science is can be defined as a branch of social science that studies the unequal power relationship and its distribution within and among states. It is a science of power and influence. But at the end of everything, this systematic and scientific needs to be there. So for me, I will most likely say should go with the first definition, that is a political science is a systematic and scientific study of politics, government, and political behavior. It examines how power is achieved, used, and distributed, as well as how laws, policies, and institutions shape society. Because this particular definition puts the word scientific and systematic there, and that word is particularly very essential in political science. I mean, political science is there in the name itself. So moving forward, what is the nature of political science? What is the nature of political science? Political science is systematic and scientific. The first number one nature of political science is systematic and scientific. Political science employs systematic methods to study political phenomenon. Political phenomenon just like how power is shared, political phenomenon like problems that are occurring in political system, political phenomenon like distribution of power, and so on and so forth. Actually, it uses both qualitative and quantitative research technique, including observation, survey, case study, and historical analysis. We use, like I said before earlier, when we carry out systematic and scientific method, we don't just decide and just bring our own thoughts and just like, okay, these are our thoughts and everybody has to follow it. No, we follow out a particular procedure before we get our theory and our law. We do our observation. We observe, okay, this particular problem that is going on, this particular societal problem, this particular political problem that is going on. We carry out surveys. We ask people that, okay, what do you think about this problem? Do you think that this particular thing can be used effectively to solve it? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? We do our case studies. We take historical analysis. We look at previous political experiences and try to connect it with our own and see if we can find solutions from there, and so on. It's just really a very procedural process, if that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. So apart from that, so political science interacts with other fields. It interacts with quite a number of other social science fields. It interacts with sociology, economics, history, psychology, law, philosophy, etc., etc. This interdisciplinary nature of political science actually helps political science in analyzing political system and behavior comprehensively, because it uses other social science ideas. It borrows idea from other social science. Because of that, it's able to analyze political system, able to analyze political issues, politics on its own, comprehensively and effectively. Apart from that, so political science is descriptive and normative. What do I mean by this? It describes political reality. What does political reality mean? Political reality means how government function. How do government function? How does the executive function? How does the legislative function? What is their function? How do they function to make sure that the society is a comfortable place for us to live in? And apart from that, you also prescribe ideal political standard. For example, now how government should function. You know, I said political realities talk about how government function. Now, after they look at how government function, they will now be like, okay, how should they function? Like, you guys get what I'm saying? Like, they're like, okay, how government function? Okay, this is how the government function, and so on and so forth. And for example, now if that government is not functioning very well, you're not be like, okay, how should this government actually function? That will be quite effective. You get, or you can also put it like this in this way that you be like, okay, let's just say it like that. This dual role make it practical and theoretical. The practical part is how government should function, because you are bringing out ideas, you are bringing out theories of how government should function, and the theoretical part is how government function. We want to know how government function. Okay, tell me, how the government function? Okay, the executive do this one, the legislative make laws, the judiciary enforce laws. It's all those type of stuff. Apart from that, political science is what dynamic and evolving. How is it dynamic? Political politics change with time, government change with time. You cannot say that it's the politics, the government that, or the politics that was going on in the 1960s during the colonial period, or the politics that was going on in the early 20th century, or so on and so forth. It's the same politics we're practicing now. No, politics change, it change with time, it evolve, it is dynamic, it's always evolving. The politics that we're going that we're operating on now is not going to be the same one we're going to operate on 2040. There's, even if this change is never much, there's always going to be a change. Even if the change is slight, it can be a change for the better, it can be a change for the worse, although I'm hoping that it's a change for the better, sha. So, and again, earlier on, we did not have anything like globalization or digital governance or environmental policy or stuff like that. During the 1960s, I've not, in the 1960s, they're not like digital governance. Digital governance is like using, election, when you vote, when you vote through your phone, when you vote through your digital device in election, that's a part of digital governance. Digital governance is the one that occurs through digital device. You get, is in the name digital governance. Globalization, let me just put it that way, that politics is evolving, politics is dynamic, political system is dynamic, political system is evolving, government is evolving, government is dynamic. Focuses on power. Another one is focuses on power. The essence of political science lies in the study of power. Power, power, power. Political science focuses on power, not just government, also power. But power and government are also synonymous in a way. You cannot be in a governmental position without holding any power. You need to have power to be in a governmental position, and when you're in a governmental position, you need to have power. It is the acquisition, exercise, and consequence. Sorry. Political science explores how power affects relationship within societies and among nations. Power can lead to disastrous something. Power can lead to beautiful things and disastrous things. It actually goes two ways. It depends on the way you want to take it, and it depends on the way you view things. You get, for example, now we can say that okay, two people are fighting. For example, now cult groups. Let me use that as an example. Cult group, each the two, maybe for example now the Olodo court group and the Sagodo court group, the two court group are fighting for power. Of course, it's a court group fight. The thing is surely most likely going to be violent. The thing is most likely going to be violent. So that in this, so that in this case, that power is negative. Yeah, the power that they're fighting for is negative. But if we are to look at maybe in an electoral process or in an election, the APC, PDP, and so on and so forth, they are fighting for power. But at the same time, it's true. How will I put it? It's true democratic format. They're not fighting for it like how the court groups are fighting for their power in the violent means. They are using democratic means. They are trying to. They are convincing us that okay, please vote for me, and if you vote for me, and this. At the end of everything, they all just want to attain power. Though the power can be gotten through negative means or positive means. Apart from that, political science is human-centric. It revolves around human. It has to do with human. Its main case study is human. Um, that's one particular reason why the natural scientists are the pure scientists. That's one reason why they're like political science is not a science, because we are using human as our case study, and human are like usually changing, and they're not like fish. And if we are to carry out experiment on human, the result is always ever changing and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the same time, political science is more about human behavior, societal organization, governments. Who are you governing? You are governing people. You are governing people. And who are people? People are human. Human and people are human. Right. So moving forward, let's go to the scope of political science. The scope of political science can be categorized into several areas. We have the political theory. This focuses on the idea and philosophies that have shaped political thoughts, e.g., democracy, liberty, justice, and equality. All those ideas, political ideas, that actually shaped, um, sorry, all these philosophies and ideas that actually shape political thought, like democracy. Now we have different type of government here. We have the authoritarian government, we have democratic government, we have autocratic government, we have monarchy, so on and so forth. There are so many philosophies, so many type of government. We have democracy, we have liberty. Liberty is what? There's one when I was in secondary school, there's one song I formed. Liberty, give us freedom. Liberty has to do with freedom. We have justice, we have equality. All these ideas, all these philosophies have actually quite shaped political thoughts and evolved political thoughts into something, into a modernized thought. How will I put it? Yes, it's always the word of thinkers like Aristotle, Plato, Marx, and Wells. All these philosophers, all these ancient philosophers. Political science studies, political scientists studies their work to be able to like bring out ideas and bring out theories that can be able to like better modern politics. I don't know if that is clear. But if it's not, you can actually put that in the chat box. I can explain that further later on. Well, we have the comparative politics. Comparative politics. Comparative politics examines and compares different political systems, government, and institutions across the world. So what we do is that what the political scientists do is that they compare, for example, now the government, the politics that they are operating in America, it's not the same politics they are operating in what North Korea. It's different. North Korea is under an authoritarian rule. America is under, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember, I can't exactly remember. I have to research on that. So you guys can actually research on that and give me your feedback. What particular government America is working on. So I'm to get, I would say Republican. I'm not sure. Anyway, sure. Or let me just choose United Kingdom. The politics that they are operating in, that is going on in United Kingdom, not the same politics going on in North Korea. No, United Kingdom is operating on the monarchy. I mean, they're using king and queen. The current ruler of United Kingdom is who? Of the Britain Empire. Of the British. Yeah, the Britain Empire is who? Charles. King Charles the Third. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. So political sciences, they compare different political systems, different political government. Let us see, okay, this particular government is like this, particular government is like, let us compare the two together, let us see their similarities, let us see their differences, let us see how they connect together, let us see this on that, they do that as well. International relations, they study the interaction between nations, focusing on diplomacy. They study how conflict arise. They study how nations interact with one another. They study about how nations cooperate with one another, the cooperation between nations. They study about international organization, the UN. They study about global issues like climate changes, trade, international trade, security, international security, and so on and so forth. World peace. We have the UN for that, United Nations. That's their main aim, world peace. Even though the world is not peaceful yet. So and so on and so forth, Sha. You still go on, you can read more on it. I will send the slides later on so you guys can just read more on it. So moving forward, what are the importance of political science? Why is political science important? Why are you studying political science? Why is it important? Political science helps in understanding the workings of government and political system. Yes, to understand government. Yes, to understand the government in which your country is operating on. You help you to understand governments of other countries. You help you to understand political system in general. It also provides insight into societal issues and offers solutions to problems like inequality, conflict, and governance failures. It gives societal solutions to societal issues like through what through scientific method. Like I said, scientific method and systematic method is actually quite important. So it gives insight into societal issues, it provides solutions, and it also as well give equips individuals with knowledge to become informed citizens and actively participate in democracy. It promotes political participation. Let me just put it that way. It promotes political participation among individuals in the society, and also contributes to policy making, international diplomacy, and everything that has to do with politics. All the good things of politics. You help us understand the previous political system. You help us understand what exactly our politicians in our country, what exactly they went through. You help us to know our rights as citizens. You cannot just if you are studying political science, there's no way a policeman can just come and meet you and just be like, yeah, I just violate you. I just try to get out from the car without and take you to the police station without no excuse or no this thing. Because as a political science, you have to understand that you have to know your rights, your responsibility as citizens, and so on and so forth. That's the number one. So, okay, I forgot to mention this. Let me just put it out there. The nature of political science refers to what political science resembles, and the scope means what are those things that belong to political science, the element and what it embraces. What it just says that what nature of political science is talking about. I mean, I've mentioned out the nature, I've mentioned out the scope. Since I just forgot to tell you the exact definition for it. The nature of political science is talking about what does political science do? Like what do they do? What's like what does political science do? Let me just put it out there. While the scope means what are those things that belong to political science? What are those things that you can associate with political science? What are the elements of political science? What does political science embraces, and so on and so forth, sha. Okay, is there like two particulars okay, let me just say that politics is present where there is a power relationship or conflict situation. Power is the subject matter of politics. As that you just put out there. Power is important in the definition of politics. Power, you can't talk about politics without power. You can't talk about politics without government, you get. So moving forward, let's talk about the interdiscipline of political science. So we have the history, we have history as an interdiscipline of political science. History is the form that it provides political science with accurate data on the past experience of states. Like I said before, political science look at the past experience of other political previous political experiences. Look at the past experience of previous political system and so on and so forth. Economics, geography, sociology, and so many interdiscipline. The scientific nature of politics. Before we talk about the scientific nature of politics, we need to first understand what is science. So science based on the Oxford Dictionary, you can say science is the knowledge obtained from the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical world, especially by observing, measuring, and experiment. The development of theory to describe the result of the activities and so on and so forth. So basically, science is just like the systematic study of structure and behavior of the physical world in the form of matter. So anyways, science follow a particular method. It's called the scientific method. The scientific method such as the observation, measurement, generating of hypotheses, and so on and so forth. That's your regular scientific method. Now, why political science is science? Political science is physical science. Physical science is also natural science. Or you can call it natural science or pure science. That's physical science. Physical science are usually like exact and accurate. Like when you do an experiment on physical science, the result is usually like the same thing. Even though you do it over and over again, you still get the same result. But for political science, because the subject matter of political science is human beings. So once you, for example, now you do an experiment on me, I will get a result. I don't know what the experiment can be anything. Use your imagination. Your imagination can run wide. So you do an experiment on me and you get a result. It's not the same results that you're going to get in the next 10 years when you do another experiment on me, when you do the same experiment on me in the next 10 years, you're not going to get the same result. Why? Because I've changed, I've evolved with time, I've grown up, my mentality has started to, and my mentality has changed and everything. So political science has to do with our subject matter is science, and that's why natural sciences are like political science is not a science, because what it has to do with human beings, and human beings are dynamic, they are changing. You can't exactly get a particular result for them. They are dynamic and they are always subjected to perpetual change, because we live in a society, and the society that we live in is ever changing, and we change with our society. We cannot just say that okay, it's only like okay, let me just leave that alone. Let me just leave that alone. And it's also very impossible to predict man behavior. The same behavior that I have is not the same behavior that you have. Everybody have different behavior, everybody have unique behavior. I have my own behavior, you have your own behavior. So in that form, science, political science, we can't exactly use the same methodology that natural scientists are using. We can't exactly use the same methodology for political science. So what is the scientific method that political science use? Political science methodology is that they first identify the problem, the research problem. Then after they finish identifying the research problem, then they start to generate hypotheses. They start to bring proposals or generation of hypotheses. They start to generate hypotheses. That, okay, oh, I've already observed this problem. Okay, oh, this is my hypothesis. Or this is what I think. And stuff like that. After that, they start to collect data based on the hypotheses they've generated. Then they analyze their data. Then they discuss among themselves that okay, this is my own data. Now, this particular they discuss among themselves that okay, this particular data and stuff like that. Then after that they conclude what they discuss among themselves, and okay, they've come to a particular conclusion, then they conclude. After that they recommend. You cannot do an experiment or political science without the experiment having to solve a societal problem. Your experiment always have to do with solving a societal problem. And so when you're making recommendation, you're making recommendation based on I want to provide solutions to societal problem. You get so approaches in political science. Oh, I forgot something. Let me just put it out there. There's one particular difference between political science and natural and physical science. Physical science, natural science, pure science, they're all the same thing. Science like chemistry, physics. The major difference is that with physical science, the evidence are usually objective. They usually express quantitative. There's no any hands of human touch in any of the experiments, in any of the results. There's no human touch. But in political science, we assess the significance of evidence based on what personal judgment. Based on what personal judgment. There's no how our personal judgment needs to be there, even if it's small, but it has to be there because we are dealing with human. Even us, we are humans on our own. So moving forward, we have approaches in political science. So we have the institutional approach. I'll be taking them one by one, but a quick one because time has gone. I'll be taking institutional approach. We have the institutional approach, structural functional approach, psychological approach, and so on and so forth. Sha. So what is the institutional approach? The institutional approach focuses on the formal distribution and the informal description, the formal description and the informal description. The formal description, or we can just say the formal institution and the informal institution. I think that one is more easy to understand. The formal institutions such as the executive, legislative, and judiciary, while the informal institutions such as family, human rights, organization, just formal informal institutions. Sha. So it's talking about that. It's focusing on those formal and informal institutions. And it's also focusing on international organizations such as the World Bank, political science, and so on and so forth. It says that the primary focus of government and their institution, their relationship and interaction, that everything has to do with what formal sorry that the primary focus of institutional approach is the government and our institution, their relationship and their interaction. That the primary focus of institutional approach is government and our institution such as the formal institution I told you guys about, legislative, judiciary, and executive. Government and our formal institution, their relationship and how they interact with one another, how the executive interacts with the legislative, how they interact with the judiciary. It also focuses on the informal institution, the family, how you and your sister, or you and your brother, or you and your mommy and your daddy interact with one another. But that's what the institutional approach is talking about. Apart from that, also studies the rules governing the relationship between this institution, the rules and regulation governing the relationship. Like for example, now the executive cannot just come and start doing that, start going overboard and entering and doing the legislative work for them, like entering the legislative arm of government and start doing their work for them. Like there are some boundaries that you have to respect. That's why there's something called separation of power, and it also comes to called checks and balances. They have, each of them have their own work that are doing. Although there is some parts that okay, there's in checks and balances. Under the checks and balances, the executive, the legislative has the authority to like come together to decide to impeach the executive. Yeah, that's when when probably the executive has done something very heinous, or probably that's and so on and so forth. Yeah. But they cannot just come and without any reason and just be like want to just want to just impeach the president, or just want to like, you get, they have their rules and regulation that they follow. They have their specific rules and regulation. So we have the another approach, which is structural and functional approach. The social and functional approach. Okay, before I talk about that, let me talk about the sociological approach. The sociological tools are relevant in studying political science because politics occur in the society. Politics occurs in the society, and to study political science that occurs in society, you need to know about the society. You need to study about the society. So I'll stop here for now under the approaches of political science, and I'll continue in the next video. You can as well give your comments on, you can as well ask your questions on the comment section and also give your comment as well. Thank you so much. Bye.